All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Path of the Brush here on Gen Con TV, live from our game store at Hoplite Games here in Lansing, Michigan. Got a special guest today. This is Rich from Dara Studios. Hi, Rich.
Hey, how are you?
Doing good, man. We're glad to have you here. Rich is going to be painting with us. We're doing Song of Ice and Fire, some Free Folk War Mammoths as we started last week. And then, as always, behind the scenes, who all come forward, we've got Mark and Will. There they are. Check them out. Hey, guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Going well. How was your week?
Oh, it was great. It was great. Just got back from Florida, actually. So, and I came back to 60-degree weather in Michigan. So, in February, what's going on here?
Yeah, what are you doing? First off, do you only go down? You go down to Florida just to get your Florida man instincts out? Is that right?
Right. That's
we
true.
don't talk about what he does there.
I wrestle gators and pythons.
I thought we didn't talk about that.
Oh, we weren't supposed to talk about it. Never mind.
And for everybody, also for everybody that's right now on Gen Con TV, don't leave. Hang out with us. We're going to be painting miniatures. Grab a miniature from your shelf of shame, as all of us have if you paint, and stay stay with us. And we're going to have a good time. Rich, Will, and Mark, just want to do that little introduction as well. We did a pre-show, but we got to do it during the show too. It just makes sense.
Yep. Hey.
Hey.
So,
How you doing, Rich? Welcome.
Tell us about your time. You've been in the industry for a couple years, 2-3 years?
Few.
Yeah.
A couple.
Yeah.
Like a couple months ago, I started.
You started a couple months ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a couple months ago was what, your like 20th, 30th anniversary in the industry?
1996.
Wow.
1996 was my first GAMA trade show, and then we opened my store about 3 months after that. So
nice.
yeah.
What was your store called?
Jester's Playhouse.
Jester's Playhouse, and that was in the Jersey area?
Yep. Northfield, New Jersey, Cape May Courthouse, New Jersey. That's where we
Nice.
started. Yep. So did that for 18 years. So
that's crazy.
just a little bit of time.
Just a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And now you work within the industry in a much different capacity as a I wouldn't say like a distributor.
No, not really. So I put consultant, but what I do is I help me and my partner Emma she's in Ireland. We actually help companies fill in the gaps of the stuff that they need. So some companies need a whole bunch of our skills, and some only need a small part of our skills. I represent the games at conventions. I sell to distribution. I also work a lot in localization, which is getting games translated into other languages.
Nice.
Which is a fun thing because I get to sit and meet and talk to people from all over the world. I was just in Germany doing that for a whole week, so that was fun.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing time.
Yeah.
Getting to interact with different cultures, because I know like certain brands or certain even just words and titles and everything, when translated to other cultures, not always the greatest thing. So you got to figure out a new way of presenting.
One of the games I work with is Fog of Love, which is a game about relationships, and one of the big things in the English version is that it's gender neutral.
Okay.
It's almost impossible to do when you go to Europe because they don't have a gender neutral language. Right?
Okay.
So it was like a challenge we had to face when we started working with companies to try to keep it, along the vein of what we wanted it to be, which was to be, open to everyone. So.
Okay. Well, as Dara Studios goes and does conventions, like I see you at all the major ones, right? And you're repping all these different publishers. Who are some of the publishers that our viewers might recognize?
So Floodgate Games, which is maker Sagrada, Kites, our newest game Skyrockets, which just released into stores. I also work with Crowd Games, which has City of the Great Machine, which has some miniatures that I've been wanting to paint. I just haven't had a chance yet. Nice steampunky miniatures. I also work with Bright Eye Games that does the Core Quest game, which was a really cool game designed by a 6-year-old, a dungeon crawler.
Nice.
During the pandemic with her and her father. So that one's a fun one to teach people and work with. I also work with John Kovalik. We're actually going to be working on in April. We're going to be launching a Kickstarter for his newest collection of Dork Tower online comics.
Nice.
So that's a fun project. I just had a meeting with him. I also work with the guys at Batsu, which is a fun little, if you're in the Chicago or New York area.
Right over there on the shelf.
Yeah, well, they make a card game, but there's also a live show in New York and in Chicago and London now.
Wow.
Where it's like a Japanese game show, and the word batsu means punishment. So part of the show is people being punished for doing stupid stuff, and it's a lot of fun. And you get to eat sushi and drink sake. And if you're in those areas or can get to those areas, you should really check it out because it's a fun night with your friends.
It is hilarious in regards to like I played it,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you and I played it at Alliance Open House
Yep.
last year.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I had to act like I was a French maid.
He was
in
very
that.
good at it, by the way.
Yes, I'm very good at a French maid. It's very easy.
Oh, we won't score him on the accent.
Well, you know, when I talk with Stéphane Brassard, it's very easy to pick up his accent.
He's been in America too long.
Agreed. Agreed.
But yeah, no, it's a great. The nice thing I like about my job is like I kind of choose who I work with, so I only pick stuff that I think is cool or good or something that can sell well. I don't have to sell something I don't want to sell.
Right.
Um,
And you've done some really cool things with your booth, as far as like how you do your presentation. So if you're ever at any of these conventions like Gen Con, Origins, PAX Unplugged, and a plethora of others, and you go to the Dara Studios booth where Floodgate and these other publishers are going to set up, you have these cool like LED wall light displays,
yeah.
and they look so like upscale pro, bro.
Yeah.
They look great.
Actually, you'll see more of them at the Gamma trade show because Gamma just spent a pretty significant amount of money buying a whole set of them. So.
Oh wow. Okay.
I talked to them at Alliance Open House last year, and they really liked them, and because they used to have the wall of lights at the old venue,
Right.
that they pushed its schedules and everything, and this new venue doesn't have any, so they wanted to try to find a solution. So they pretty much concluded that these LED screens are the way to go. So
Yeah, they'll definitely fit.
yeah,
Fit the bill for what they're looking for.
yeah.
That's cool. I know when I saw them was it Gen Con last year was the first
Gen Con,
presentation
that
of
was
them?
our first display of them.
Yeah, they look great, and they're bright and really like grab you as you're walking through the vendor hall.
Well, it works better for me because of all the different vendors I have. We can customize. It also means we don't have to buy signs at every show, and we don't have to, because we just have to change the video. And the great part about them is you change the video from my phone. Like I can just literally, they broadcast their own Wi-Fi, and I can just change it right from my phone, and at a moment's notice. So if we have a signing or anything like that we want to work on, we can just add it right in. If we want to change things, if we want to add things, we can do it right there on the fly, which is really nice.
That's ridiculous and awesome.
Yeah. And they also, I don't think you've really seen this because you haven't been to the shows we've used it, but they cascade. So you can put 3 of them together and make one bigger screen, or 6 of them, or 8 of them. So you can make a whole wall of video if you want that all connect.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, we did it at Toy Fair New York, and it looked really good.
That was like on and off month for the year because Toy Fair is usually around the same time as Valentine's.
Yeah, it was definitely not the Toy Fair that I was used to. I've been going there since I have my store. And this year it was completely not a show.
When is it this year?
It's not this year.
That's
They
what I
canceled
thought.
it. They canceled it for this year, and then it's going to happen next year. And it's actually the same weekend as Gamma Trade Show.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's
So there's going to be no table. Now, the toy industry is not going to care because Mattel, doesn't care that Gamma Trade Show is happening. But it means that the tabletop area, which is, a pretty, like a quarter of the bottom floor, will have no vendors probably. So
that's going to be crazy.
Yeah, so
because I love that show.
Yeah, it's a fun show. It really is. The interesting part about it is most of the show happens not even in the convention center because they have the whole toy district.
Yeah.
And you have to have invites, and it's all exclusive. It's very. I got to do it once. DC Comics had invited me to one of their showrooms, and it was definitely a different experience than a regular trade show.
Agreed. I've gotten to go to the Hasbro.
Oh yeah, I'm
the
sure.
DC Comics, because DC Comics used to just share their booth with us at Toy Fair. For at least for DC collectibles.
Right.
So I've been to like 4 or 5 of those weird like off-site events.
Yeah, it's a very strange and I mean many of the companies that's their showroom for the world. So when somebody visits from they're overseas, even outside of Toy Fair, they go to that showroom that they have set up. So they have showrooms permanently set up in a section of New York. So
Crazy.
yeah, it's I get to do a lot of shows.
You do
Yeah.
a bunch of them.
This year I'm going to get to do Game Market in Japan, which will be fun.
That's a trade show, though.
It's a consumer show.
Oh, is it? Is
It's a
it
consumer show, yeah.
Game Market or is it?
Game Market in Japan is a consumer show. It's the weirdest consumer show I've ever been to.
Is it kind of like Comic Cart?
I don't know. I haven't been that, but it's 2 days. People
Yeah.
come in, they buy a bunch of stuff, and they leave. And then the next day,
Isn't that
there's
every show?
well, but they leave. They just go home, and then
Oh.
the next day you come back, and there's new vendors in a lot of the spots that were there the day before because the vendors only rent the space for one day because they sell out the first day,
What?
and then somebody else takes their place. Yeah,
Wow,
and that's
crazy.
where like Saiji Kanai, who did Love Letter,
Mhm.
will have a booth there, and he'll have his newest game, print 1,000 copies, and then sell them all, and that's it. He's done for the weekend.
Dang.
And
That's cool.
It's 2 days.
Who we got down there? Just saying hello there.
Star Reapers.
Hey, what's up, Star Reapers? So we're painting some Free Folk War Mammoths from Song of Ice and Fire by Simon Games. For me, it's been kind of like playing around with some stuff. So yeah, here's my War Mammoth, and yeah, like I said, I'm just trying to play around with some technique and stuff on mine. And then Will and Mark, who are always with us, are also painting some War Mammoths for my armies.
So that's how you get your armies painted.
Look at that. Yeah, look at Mark's right there. That's such a good looking one. And Will,
Oh yeah.
yeah, they're doing great jobs. They look so good. And then Rich is also painting one of the War Mammoths, making a bunch of like corrections on all my mistakes. Because I know you guys are here to watch us paint and chat, but it's just a hangout as always. And if you have any questions about painting, please ask. We are, just here to have a good time and enjoy what we've all come to love is painting our miniatures, and it's best to paint them with friends, in my opinion. I like hanging out and painting, but we will answer questions if you have them. I'm currently using some oak brown on these leather bits on my War Mammoth.
I'm using a mix of chaotic red and fur brown and a little bit of hardened leather to try to get a darker what I usually use for leather.
Nice.
To try to get the base down and then start doing the kind of the aging of it, which is always the hard part. The trick I heard about aging, which was always like kind of eluded me, was I used to use flesh tones to kind of lighten leather because
Mhm.
it always made sense to me, but it's actually yellow. The secret is yellow.
Yellow.
To brown makes it get that kind of like Indiana Jones cracked leather jacket kind of look to it. Yeah.
That aviator jacket.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And that's what I always want my leather to look like that, but it's
Nice.
it's one of them works in progress that I've always been trying to achieve.
Very cool. Well, thanks for coming in and hobbying with us, Reaper. We appreciate it. If you have any questions or if you play Song of Ice and Fire, tell us what faction you're currently playing or which ones you prefer. And if you have any insight for the Free Folk, let me know, because we just started a Song of Ice and Fire league here at the store, and I am playing Free Folk in it, and I have no idea how well I'm going to do in this because I'm not a traditional war gamer. So, whereas you've played a lot of war games in your time.
Yep. So I guess Games Workshop, a friend of mine in college came back and he says, I got this new thing. It's called Warhammer. And we opened it up. It was 40K second edition.
Okay.
So back when the Dreadnought in there was a cardboard stand-up.
What?
And the terrain was a cardboard stand-up.
It's
And
amazing.
he had one pose, just an axe in one hand, a gun in the other.
So
And we played that game all weekend long. I think we slept maybe 2 hours. And then
glorious.
that's kind of what led to my store when I opened it, because we searched everywhere, and the nearest store we could find that even sold it a decent quantity was like 2 hours away.
Ouch.
And we're like, well,
Was
all
it the
right.
Complete Strategist?
No, it was Showcase Comics that ended up replacing the GW store in Philadelphia.
Oh, okay.
Because
Very
I'm
nice.
closer to Philadelphia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we made the pilgrimage to there, bought some more miniatures. I think my first miniature I ever bought for Games Workshop was a Zope.
Wow.
Yeah, so that puts me puts my age back there. Zotes were like these crazy Tyrannid creatures. Now are not Tyranids if you follow the fluff, but it's they did one for Blackstone Fortress actually.
Nice.
But the Zope, and I did Genestealer Cult, and it was models weren't that much different than they are now actually. But
In regards to their sculpt, or
the style of the miniatures
Okay.
still look pretty similar because they're better detail and they're plastic now, not the metal ones that I was doing. That was my first real miniatures game. Though I did do Battle System. Remember Battle
of
System?
course. Second edition D&D,
Second
man.
edition D&D Battle System. We had my whole
I have it
garage
out there.
floor. Really?
Yeah, I have it
Oh,
out there on
wow.
the floor.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I ran that as part of my big campaign on the floor of my garage,
Nice.
in my and blended it with my D&D campaign that I was running.
So when you think about painting miniatures, obviously 40K wasn't your first foray into miniature painting.
No, actually, my first miniatures was in high school. Grenadier Miniatures
Okay.
made the official Dungeons and Dragons miniatures line. And I was just talking to someone in Ann Arbor that Will,
Will Niebling.
who
Yeah.
actually worked for them
Yeah.
and sold the Poly S paint line that was officially the Dungeons and Dragons paint line. And I had all of them, of course, because
Of
I
course.
needed to collect all the
Well, you're a
paints.
completionist when it comes to your paint.
Yeah. I was joking with him about it back then. You can tell where the hobby's changed is that there was one flesh tone. It was called human flesh, and
Human
you can
flesh.
guess what color that was. It was, and so all humans
Right.
had the same flesh tone in the hobby market,
Right.
which was pink.
Right.
Luckily, we've changed now, and we actually have, evolved. Army Painter has their great flesh paints, which
Mhm.
is actually a really good set. I don't know if not
It
to
is.
do a plug, but it is a really
No,
good
no,
set if you're painting
we-
other.
We will plug
Yeah.
Army Painter because
Yeah.
Army Painter is our exclusive paint sponsor for the Path of the Brush.
Brought
So
to you
thank
by
you.
Army Painter.
Thank you, Army Painter.
But their flesh tone set is a really good set. If you really want to add variety to your troops and make them look different, they have some really nice stuff. And the videos they did to accompany it really help a lot in
Nice.
really customizing your models so that they're not all one color like they were back in the day.
Well, my first miniatures I think was also was a Grenadier or Ral Partha, because those were the two you had to choose from
That's
back
what you
then.
got. Yeah.
And but I didn't have those paints available to me. I didn't have when I first got into it.
Enamels.
Yeah, I was using enamels. I was using
yeah.
tester.
Yeah.
Well,
I was lucky growing up. My uncle owned a hobby shop.
hmm
And so the first miniatures I actually bought was he went in there and he had these things called Dungeon Dwellers. And these were, if you could probably sculpt better miniatures out of a piece of soap than these were. But to
Nice.
me, they were magical because
Yeah,
it was
they
the
were
first thing. It's like,
phenomenal.
I just got these things in. I didn't even know what Dungeons and Dragons was, but these were the best things ever. And of course, I started. Then Grenadier, if you remember, made a how to paint miniature set, which
I
had
did
this
not know
wizard.
this one.
So they had a wizard, and at the time they couldn't figure out how to do Polyas couldn't figure out how to do metallics
Okay.
in water based. So they taught you how to paint gold actually using really non-metallic metals.
Oh.
They had a yellow and a gray,
Okay.
and that was how they taught you how to paint the metals on it because they didn't make a metallic color. So they didn't want to have you buy somebody else's paint. So they taught you how to do, effectively non-metallic metals at the time.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Let's see what our hangout Reaper here is talking about. I can't read anything. It's too far for me.
Almost all games have hyper detail models, so it's nice to do simple models.
Yeah.
More charm to it, more life.
Old World, Warhammer Old World. There we go.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. I'm working on a Chaos Army now for that. I didn't want to, but I am. I used to have like 15,000 points of chaos when I had my store, and then I sold it all off. And now I'm going to do it all over again.
Of course, that's what we do, right?
Yeah. Warhammer Old World's pretty nice, actually. The rule set's really good.
Cool. Yeah, the when you think about the whole path of the brush concept of like what got you started into the hobby, and what kind of paints have you used over the years. It's always fun when you have those connection points with others, right? So you're familiar with Iron Wind.
Yep. Iron Wind took over Reaper or Ralph Partha. Yeah.
Ralph Partha. And
Yeah.
so I was at a party that they were one of the sponsors of at Origins a few years ago before the pandemic, and they had on this dining table in this hotel suite, right? This huge buff. I don't know, it could probably seat 10 or 12 people, and it was just a stack of lead of pewter, and they're like, if you whatever you want, just grab, take what you want. I was like, really? So I'm sitting there looking through it, and they had like little tokens for different currencies and stuff. I grabbed a couple of those, and as I'm digging, I pull out, and it's the first miniature I ever painted.
Oh, really?
It's
Which
the,
one was
It
that?
was this dwarven cleric that's holding like his warhammer down across his waist, just kind of parallel to himself and to the ground, and all in plate mail armor and everything. And I got a little emotional, right? And they're all like, "What's wrong with you?" It's like, I'm sorry. This is, I painted my first miniature when I was in foster care, so it has a lot of feelings and emotions to it. And when I saw it there, and had my little, my emotional moment that all men have, where they just go, "Oh yeah, it's cool," right? But that, I was able to take it with me. I keep it at my studio. I haven't painted it because I don't know. It doesn't feel right now to paint it. It is, right? So
Yeah, my first commission job was in high school. All my friends bought D&D minis, but none of them had any idea that you would paint them or anything.
right.
And I showed them mine, and they're like, "Oh, I'll pay you to paint mine for me." And so I started.
You must have been like the first commission painter, because that
Yeah, it
was
was like 1984.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was thinking of 72 or something like
I'm
that.
not that. I graduated high school in '87.
Oh, okay.
It was '84.
There's a couple years before me.
Yeah.
Like literally just a couple.
Just a couple. But yeah, so I over the years, the one that I painted that one of our customers bought, I bought it in. I didn't think we'd ever sell it, but the slave auction from Ralph Partha, you remember that one?
I do. That was the box like this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then one of our customers bought it. He's like, "Well, I can't paint. I want you to paint it for me." I'm like, but I did have a use for the nipple pink color that I had.
Yeah. The models were a little.
That was
more
definitely
risque.
cringy. That was
Yeah.
definitely a cringy one.
Yeah.
You wouldn't see it being sold these days.
No. I will
But,
say this. Not that kind of box set, but I would love to see a return to the 10 miniature set, right? Where it's wizards, right? Where but it's the progression
Mm-hmm.
of a wizard,
Right.
like every 2 levels up to
Wasn't
level
Wiz
20.
Kids doing something like that? Weren't they doing like a beginning level, middle level?
So
But I don't know if they still do it.
in their dual packs, when you get like a tiefling wizard, it'll be a low level version of it and then a higher level version of it.
Uh-huh.
So they do, and they still do that, which is super cool.
Yeah, it's always fun. That's the Hero Forge stuff is cool because you can kind of do that if you want, if you don't mind spending $30 on a miniature or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
Yeah.
I have
Plus you can print them yourself. That's where it's only like $7-8 a miniature to print them yourself.
Yeah, I have adventuring Santa Claus miniature
Oh, okay.
that I
That's
created. And then I painted him up and was really happy with
I
it.
met the guy who helped them set up their printing, color printing.
Yeah.
It's a guy in the Netherlands, and it's like a $30,000 setup, the software,
Yeah.
but it prints models in full 3D color.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's insane. So you can, I think it's like $50-$60 a miniature, but you literally don't have to paint it because everything is rendered in color 3D printing.
Yeah, that just seems inappropriate.
I know, right? Think of all the miniatures painters who'll starve if that's regular.
So you're from New Jersey. You live in New Jersey. What brought you up to Michigan?
So we, because we have a whole bunch of companies, we need a good warehouse to work with to get our stuff everywhere that we send it. And so our warehouse is actually in Michigan. So I was up here getting ready for show season because by the end of show season, stuff's in every box and every crate. We try to put everything back, but so I was down there working, doing that, and I knew I'd be close to you guys, so I got in touch with you and said, "Hey, I'm going to come up and check things out, paint with you. That sounds like fun."
Absolutely.
So we always see each other at shows, and we're always running past each other because we got 100
Awesome.
other things to do.
Exactly.
Here we could just sit, have some fun, and paint.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you're able to do that.
Yeah. I mean, painting is my relaxation. I do it at least a couple hours a day when I'm at home, and even when I travel, I take miniatures with me. Or if I'm in a city, I'll just go get some miniatures and some paints, and try something new or what have you. So
nice. I've actually seen Rich paint at Alliance Open House once, which was super funny.
Yeah, I like painting.
Yeah.
It's one of them like of all the hobbies I do and all the things I do in the game industry, it's one of the things I've been consistently doing for 30 some years. So
Wow.
yeah, can't say I'm not. I've never perfected my skill because especially years that I have my store, most of it was to get people's armies painted.
Yeah, get them on the table and get them playing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Like you said, you only see them at 3 foot away. That's and too many people spend a lot of time trying to make them, perfect like they see on Instagram and all that. It's just it's more fun to play the game.
I agree.
But I also don't like miniatures unpainted. Even my board games that I play, I usually paint the miniatures.
Yeah, I will. So in a future episode, we'll be doing another CMON game, painting some other miniatures from other Marvel United set. Which is all the chibi kid looking.
Chibi, that's fun stuff.
Yeah, because our whole theme this year or this season, this is season 3 of the show, is painting what we're playing, right? So I'm playing Song of Ice and Fire, so we're gonna paint this. Before we did this, I painted the Tantor for Conquest, the big Brontosaurus that the orcs ride in the battle, and then after this, I think we're gonna be doing Star Wars Shatterpoint.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So there's all sorts of fun sets that we're going to be playing with, and also playing with. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to use the miniatures too, not just put them on a shelf.
It's one of 4 games I own too. Marvel United, own everything, including promos. Nice. They made a lot of promos for that. So how's Will and Mark? How are your War Mammoths coming along?
We're working on Twinkle Toes here.
That's what you decided to name yours?
I guess it'll be Twinkle Toes now. I was working on the toenails on this thing, trying to get all the tusks and all the bone stuff.
Nice.
So
it looks great. Make sure when you're done that you sign the bottom. So when people ask me, "Wow, that looks great," and I can go, "Yep, painted by this guy." I don't remember his name. when it does a trample over their units.
Right, gotta stick it to them. Will, you got some red hairs going in there, it looks like. Oh, you're muted, Will. I'll unmute you there. Nope, you gotta unmute yourself.
Yeah, I like a good terracotta. And I thought that'd be a good place to start from, and I could like brown it down in the cracks as there's so much depth in these things. They can pick up wash really well. So that's I'm starting with a more reddish brown.
Nice.
Going from there. Yeah, Snuffleupagus is coming along well, I think.
Very cool. So do you have any questions for Rich, either of you?
Yeah, Rich, do you have a certain genre? You talked about some of the classic games you were playing and some of the publishers that you're working with right now. Is there a certain genre that you you like more than others? You know, is it high adventure
Fantasy.
stuff for board
Fantasy.
games or or whatever? Yeah, fantasy wise.
Fantasy and Conan specifically. If it's Conan, I love it.
Oh, no wonder you guys are besties over there. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Conan is my all time. I've read all the books. I have all the games. It's one of them ones I really keep getting drawn back to.
I should have. I actually brought a sword to the store today, but I didn't bring my Conan sword.
Ah,
Have you seen my Conan sword?
I've seen pictures of it.
Yeah.
I've never seen it in person.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, I get to meet Conan next Saturday. Hopefully,
Yes.
so the real well, not the real Conan.
No.
The
real Conan.
The real Conan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that poser guy
Mhm.
that was in Conan a couple years ago.
Oh no, he's still Conan, but this is the real Conan.
Well, to get into the Game of Thrones things, I saw him in the interview in
Yeah.
San Diego Comic-Con. I was actually standing there, and
Yeah.
see, the thing is he said they asked him who would win, Khal Drogo or Conan, and he said Khal Drogo.
Oh, never mind.
I can't
You're
forgive him for that. I can't
no,
forgive him
You're right.
because
He's out.
all you have to do is watch the first Conan movie,
Mhm.
and you see what happens when Conan gets scratched by a witch.
Right.
He throws her in a fire, and it's over.
Right.
What has happened to Khal Drogo? He dies.
He dies. Gets
Right.
scratched by a witch.
And he dies. Conan gets scratched by a
Ridiculous.
witch. He leans into it, throws her into the fire, and walks away. No problem.
Yep. You're right.
Obviously,
She goes,
it's there
"Please tell
in
me."
the documentary. In the documentary about Conan,
Yeah.
it says that's the way it works.
This dude has done the Conan math.
Heck yeah.
I love it.
Someday, I hope to open a gym, and the gym's just going to be Wheels of Pain, and
Mm.
you're just going to be walking around the Wheel of Pain.
Push
Oh
it in.
my god.
You watch the documentary, he goes from like a skinny 12-year-old to Conan.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it works. It's obviously works.
Obviously works.
It's like a 30-second montage. And
Yeah,
it doesn't
yeah.
take any time. It just happens.
You know what's also interesting is, do you remember when he's being led to the Wheel of Pain, and there's the redheaded kid, the younger redhead kid
Mhm.
that's also kind of like that, like crimps himself to the bars or the pushing post. I feel like that kid has never aged, and I've seen him in other movies. Right, so I've seen him in Lord of the Rings. He's at Helm's Deep, the Battle of Helm's Deep.
Really?
That same kid shows up at Helm's Deep. And then he's in 13th Warrior as a young kid that's hanging out at the Viking, right? Like when Antonio Banderas' character meets the Vikings, and that kid is there too. I'm like, is this kid immortal? It's crazy. He's not, obviously, but
Maybe he's a ghost.
There you go.
You're exposing the redheaded vampires of Hollywood right now.
I
That's
think
right.
so, and I better be careful.
Watch
Yeah.
yourself on the way home tonight.
Yeah.
They'll get you.
Those ginger vampires are going to get you.
Hey, what's up? What is that? House of Trades?
Nos of Traders.
Nos of
Nos of
Traders.
Traders.
I can't see very well. What did Reapers say there? The last thing, or if they sign it.
And if we sign the mammoths and they don't do good in game, you can say it's our fault.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
that's true.
Yeah.
They just would have
Good
painted
call.
it better.
Yeah, if they would have just painted it better. This guy's is going to look so much better than mine. So I don't think that's going to be the issue.
I've always thought that painted models roll better. That's
They do.
been what I've learned.
I believe it.
Agreed. So you've obviously watched Game of Thrones.
Yep.
Of all the main characters, which character did you gravitate towards?
Braun. There's nobody
Really?
else. There's
Really?
nobody else. Braun.
He's a great character.
He's
for
great.
sure.
Yeah.
And a great voice too.
Yeah. And what's even better is to watch his music video from the 1980s
Mm.
where he does Up on the Roof. It's amazing.
Is it?
Yeah. He was like a part of a 60s, 80s revival band, and he sings Up on the Roof, and it's you can see why they got him to sing. What was it? Casterly.
Was it the Reigns of Casterly?
Yep.
Yeah.
But he was. Yeah. He actually. I like that character.
I did too. I thought he was a great character. I especially like when he's when him and the Hound are in that tavern after he I think it's right after he sang the song, and him and the Hound are kind of like gauging each other for like if they were to have a little scrap. That would have been a great fight.
Ooh.
No, I like it. Even in the books, he was one of my favorite characters. I was glad that they cast him well so that I could like him in the show.
So I don't know if you knew this, but there's a fun fact about him.
Oh yeah.
So him and the actress, was it Headley, the who played Cersei,
Yeah.
were in a relationship before the show,
Oh really?
and it did not end well. And it did not end like when I say not well, like it was like bad.
Okay.
And so in the contract, there can be no scenes where they're in the same scene
Oh
together.
wow.
So one of the biggest notices of that is when they're doing the meeting at the old arena with the Dragons arena or whatever.
Yeah.
And he comes in, and him and who was the page? Payne. Not Ilan Payne, but it was another Payne that was Tyrion's page and then became Brianna Tarth's squire. What was his name?
Yeah.
But you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And everybody watching obviously knows because they're way brighter than me. There's a scene there, and he's like, "Hey, let's get out of here and go get a drink. Let these nobles do their thing." And then it's like walk off, and then it cuts, and then in comes Cersei.
Gotcha. That's funny that the shape of the show was based on their relationship.
So,
So I have the Calm app. I don't know if you guys know Calm. It's like meditation and all that stuff. He actually does a lot of the sleep readings.
okay.
Yeah, they actually got him to come in. He's my go-to if I need to get to sleep early.
Nice.
Well, my first go-to is usually This American Life, but
Okay.
Ira Glass would put anybody to sleep. Love the show, but boy, Ira Glass's voice is just. Oof. I could be wide awake, 10 cups of coffee, and he'd still put me to sleep.
That's wild.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Braun does the sleep stories on
That's hilarious.
Calm. Yeah.
The
Pretty fun.
So my character that I kind of like really enjoyed their whole progression was Arya.
Yeah.
You know.
Always Arya's good. I like the fish or what's the fish knight?
The Blackfish.
No, the Onion Knight. The Onion
Oh
Knight.
yeah. Davos.
Yeah, Davos. It's really good.
Yes,
He's
it was
really
great. There's so many. That's one of the things I think George R. R. Martin's really good at in regards to is his seeding and development of character. He just got to get that closure done.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He's got to finish the story.
Yeah.
He was on. Speaking of NPR, he was on. What was it? Wait, don't tell me.
I don't know.
He was on Wait, Don't Tell Me. And he claimed that the story of it came from when he was playing with his turtles in a metal castle. And so it explains why everybody dies quickly because, turtles. Pet turtles.
Wow.
Of course. So the pet turtles were the knights and the armor and everything. And of course, they died a lot. So
That makes sense.
that's why everybody dies in Game of Thrones
Okay.
because of the turtles.
Dang
Interesting.
it. I always thought that it came because of he obviously plays D&D.
Yeah.
He loves miniature war games.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because I know that he buys a lot of his supplies for his miniatures from the Michigan Toy Soldier store.
So did Peter Jackson.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if you know that whole story.
I do.
Yeah.
I know some of that story.
Yeah.
So
But I actually had dinner with George Martin many years ago.
nice.
And Gen Con SoCal. He was the guest of honor, and we were selling books for Fantasy Flight because they just bought out their role-playing game for it and stuff.
Okay.
And we had dinner with him, and I asked him the one question I always wanted, which was Tyrion him, and Tyrion is him.
Really?
So, yeah. So if an author puts themselves in the book, in this case, it's Tyrion. He identifies with Tyrion.
That's cool.
I kinda
Tyrion is
could
another
tell
great
that.
character.
Yeah, I could tell that because Tyrion is kind of one of the heroes of the book, even though he comes off as an anti-hero. I could see that being smart and knowing things was, what George Martin, I think,
Mhm.
kind of built into Tyrion because it reflected his personality too. So.
So Tyrion is my number 2 favorite character in the whole story arc, because for those of you that, if you've read the books, right, one of the coolest things I think about Tyrion is when he would say something to another character that was an honest and truthful thing, like when he's talking to Jon Snow in the beginnings and about going to the wall and all that stuff, and all of his interactions with Sansa and the other Stark girls and characters. If he says it and it's meant to be a truthful piece, his inner dialogue always reflected that same truth, right? Which you don't get to see in the show because they don't do inner dialogue, right? And the inner dialogue, I think, was super important in his development for me because, again, everything he said, he was honest about.
Yeah.
And you could tell because of the inner dialogue.
He was probably the only honest character.
Well,
Sure.
and Arya.
Yeah, well.
I like her whole nope, that's not me. That whole I'm not going to fit to the conforming anything that's conforming to how a lady in a castle should be.
Of course.
So great. I hope they actually do follow up and do a series with her as far as her adventures west of Westeros.
She goes to Gotham City afterwards, right?
Yeah, she's Batgirl. Come on. And I know that they have the other new show coming out, Snow.
Yeah.
Which would be interesting.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see them develop some of the other characters.
Yeah.
The big thing, especially that last season, was how small the world became the quicker the later in the story.
Right.
Unless they invented teleporting, because that was
It was fast travel.
It was fast travel. Yeah.
Any good fantasy video game will give you that.
Yeah.
Give you that option.
That's right. They can just fast travel between the cities. But it was the world is pretty interesting that they developed. So it's neat. It'll be neat to see a more detailed version of it.
Yeah, for sure. See what else we got in there. Facts. Nice. All right.
And this is taking me back to when I was my first real hobby store was also one of the model train stores.
Okay.
Yeah.
You get some of the guys who are veteran model train setup building, and if they just sit down and talk, you shut up and you absorb what the grognards had to share.
Listen to the wisdom of the elders.
Yeah, just take it all in because you're gonna pick up some good stuff. And this has been wonderful.
It's one of those silence, which I was there when when the laws were written.
Oh.
So good.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, when you think about perspective of the industry, when you first got into working within the industry as a retailer, and then as you transitioned into different roles, because you've also been a game designer.
Yep. Barely, but yes.
I mean, you have the one
Kamigami Battles.
Kamigami Battles by Japanime Games.
Yep.
And then you've also assisted in some other games as well, right?
Yeah, back in the day when I worked with Japanime, I was the head of organized play for Crossmaster.
Okay.
So I played a big role in editing Crossmaster Quest, which was short-lived, unfortunately, but also a CMON product.
Nice.
I work, a lot of my publishers I work with very closely, helping them, because I found a lot of manufacturers don't see how a box sits on a shelf, right?
Right.
And how it falls off a shelf very easily if it's not the right thickness. And so I've managed to add a lot of that, just hands-on knowledge that I see a lot of manufacturers don't have because they've never actually been a retailer.
Yeah.
And what annoys you as a retailer, things like that, where a box just keeps falling off the shelf and then gets damaged. And then what do? Discount it. So
right.
I'm able to do that. And because I do the consumer shows, I talk to the customers a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes manufacturers don't do that as often. So
Well, you
Um,
also work with a lot, or that I've noticed over the years that you've worked with a lot of companies too that are coming from overseas. Like you said, you're trying to bring overseas publishers' product to the States,
Yep.
and they don't understand the American market.
No, yeah,
Right.
they don't understand how, because retail, consumers, everything is very different. We like to think we're all gamers, but there is a difference.
Oh, absolutely.
How retail stores set up, how retail stores run in the U.S. is different. How distribution works. I mean, I think the biggest lesson I need to teach them is how geography works, because
Oh,
Europe is very small.
right.
And they think that America is very small, and therefore you can just find one place and send everything out.
Hmm.
It's a lot of logistics, a lot of movement of products,
Yeah.
and making sure it's in the right places at the right time. And it's one of the things that's sometimes with European customers, it's hard to make them realize the enormity of America, and how there's some sections of America where you can't even possibly get product to, unless you have a local distributor.
Yeah. Yeah, I find it funny because people will be like, "Oh, you're in Michigan. Do you go visit this, or can you get this over here?" And it's like, no, that's like an 8-hour drive,
Yeah.
right? And they're like,
Yeah.
really? I'm like, yeah. 8 hours is what the entire, if you were to drive from the north to the south of England,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You get to, you get to the Southwest America, and you have, 8 hours between a city.
Right.
So you're not getting much moved unless you have local distributors that can help you move it there. So
Yeah. So that's one of the things I think is a very interesting aspect of what you do for the industry and for your clients being the publishers, is you open their eyes to the vast differences between the cultural and economical
Yeah.
things, Europe and Japan, because you've done some sourcing
yeah.
out of the Japan area.
Well, I worked with Japanime Games for a while, so a lot of our games were actually taking Japanese games and making them into English versions.
Right.
So that was a big partner of ours. And the Japanese game market is so different than here, because stores are very small
Yeah.
and they have no space. So pretty much a game comes in, it sells out, and that's it. It's done.
Mhm.
And if you don't get it in there, whereas in the American market, many stores have stuff that they've had since they opened. Japanese game stores can't afford that because they
Right.
don't have the space to actually do that.
Okay.
So getting them used to that, getting other publishers used to it. And then, like I said, a big part of my business is localization. So learning how each country works is a tough one, because each country in the world has different rules, different regulations,
Hmm.
and also different tax brackets. And so, it's learning that stuff is actually something I enjoy, but also is not easy to learn.
Sure. That makes sense.
I have a few customers, like I have a Hungarian customer. In the first 20 minutes, we talk about the local politics of Hungary. So
Yikes.
it's not pretty there, but
Yeah.
that's the stuff that you learn, and that's what I find interesting about it, is that I get to talk to local people about their local situation, and then try to fit games, because that's the problem too. You can't just fit every game into every country. So
Right.
learning what sells, why it sells. Like Korea, almost everything in Korea sells as mail order because there's no game stores.
Wow.
So you don't get the same, oh, well, you could demo this or you could teach it. It has to sell on its own. It has to have good packaging. It has to have,
Good instructions.
good instructions. And they may take it to a local cafe, but the cafes themselves don't sell games.
Wow.
So that's a totally different approach to the market.
Yeah, absolutely. See? I didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Freaking- That's
So I want
pretty
to
wicked.
ask, you've been to Japan a few times then?
I've been to Japan once. I'm going back in April.
Okay.
Mostly Tokyo, so I can't say I'm an expert on the country, but at least on Tokyo a little bit. Akihabara is very neat. There's,
Roppongi's neat too.
Huh?
Roppongi.
Roppongi. Yeah, I've been to Shinjuku, which is also interesting.
Ooh.
I've been watching on HBO. They have the new Tokyo Vice,
Yeah.
and that takes a lot of Shinjuku's aspects to it. So,
Nice.
yeah. Well, what was your question?
Well, if you've been there, I was going to ask if you've been able to make it out to like a street ramen vendor. 'Cause
Um,
that's a bucket
so
list item that I've got. I just want to
every
get there.
morning, I found that the second day I was there, that at the train station was this little ramen place, and you could use your Suka card, which is the effectively your train pass, to touch the machine. The machine would put a ticket out. You'd hand a ticket to the old lady behind the counter, and then you'd say whether you want soba or ramen, and they'd hand you a bowl of stuff. And it was by far the best ramen I've probably ever had. And in equivalent exchange, it was $2. And so
Wow.
every morning, that was my breakfast after that. We went to
Wow.
Denny's. They have a Denny's in Tokyo. And I'm like, why did we go to Denny's when we could have went to this every morning?
Oh,
But it's so hot. Oh my gosh. I would sit there and all the other people, in their business suits going to work, would be sitting there sucking it up right out of the thing. And I'm like, how are they doing this? This is lava. How can you swallow lava? What, but yeah, that was great.
That's amazing.
That was really good. And we also did the yakitori was really great. I actually learned really good yakitori places we went to, which speaking of which, if you're at PAX Unplugged,
Always.
Yakitori Boy, which is not too far from the convention center, has really good yakitori.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's the food in Japan. It's so good. It's just so like fresh and clean, and it's hard. It's hard to find in the U.S. real good Japanese food. But
Nice. So we have Ruckus Ramen right across the street.
yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
It's
there's a traditional place just down the road too called Sapporo Ramen that you can get.
that's in Frandor, right?
Well, no, that's in on campus down on MAC.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, in our area, it's we have a few ramen, but they clearly are not like ramen places. They're
Right.
people who said, "Oh, look, I can make ramen," and you can tell it's not the same. But yeah, you can. I grew up in Philly and go to Philly a lot, and people always ask like, "What's the best cheesesteak?" And in Tokyo, what's the best ramen? The one on the corner near you, right? Like it's just that. In Philadelphia, that's what I tell everybody. It's like, well, what's the closest cheesesteak place? Like, as long as you don't go to Geno's or Pat Steaks.
Agreed.
Sorry, Geno's and Pat Steaks. I don't want to, dish you, but they don't know how to make cheesesteaks. I'm just telling you. If you want to know what the one, if you do go to Philly and you go to PAX Unplugged, you're gonna wait in line, but it's John's Roast Pork down by the IKEA is actually, according to informal surveys, the best cheesesteak in Philadelphia.
I don't normally get a cheesesteak in Philly. I usually go to what is the
Reading Market.
I go to Reading Market
Yeah.
and I get Heroes.
Yeah.
Because I call her Auntie because she recognizes me every year, and she's like, "Hey, you're back." I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "What do you want this time?" And I go, "I'll take 2 chicken and then 1 lamb hero." And she loads me up, and then I don't have to eat the rest of the week.
Yeah,
I'm full from that one meal.
Yeah. Reading Market is great. Yeah, and again, there's a cheesesteak place there. If you want the best cheesesteak, just go get a cheesesteak.
Yeah, you're gonna get a good one there. For sure.
It's a combination of the bread, and don't let anybody fool you that Cheese Whiz is normal. That is not a normal cheesesteak. That is Pat Steaks and Geno's, and no place that I grew up in Philadelphia ever served that with, in Northeast Philly, there's a place called Greenman's, and they make hoagies, which are what we call subs. I guess you call them subs here, right?
Subs or grinders.
Grinders. And they would cut off a pound of meat before they make your sandwich, and then fill it, fresh cut right off the thing, and then make your sandwich with that pound of meat. If you got a salad one, they would fill a 1 pound tub of salad and then load your so
that's like that salad bar place at Reading Market in the back. You go back there and it's load you up.
Yeah, it's great stuff.
Yeah,
Reading Market is by far the best, but just there's some really good Asian restaurants also around the corner from there.
Nice.
Penang, which is Malaysian food, which is really good, is on 10th Street, right around the corner too.
I got a little sad at New York Comic Con this past year. on the corner, like 2 blocks up from Jobbits, there was a deli grocer right there, right? And every morning I walk in there and I'll get a bagel with like, an egg and a slice of like ham or some bacon. And they're like $2.50. Right. And you can get like 2 of them and they're like a fresh bagel. It was just great. They were closed and emptied out. There wasn't even something replaced in it yet.
By the way, I lick my brushes, but you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's
Because
not good.
You know
It's
what he's
not
doing? He's licking my brushes.
Yeah, look at his brushes.
Gross.
I wash them first.
Yeah.
They're not right from his mouth,
Right.
but do not lick your brushes. Even though I do it, I can't stop myself. I've tried. My girlfriend is always telling me to stop licking my brushes. She's sitting across the table, so she's laughing because she knows that she tells me all the time. But 20 years of painting, I can't get myself out of it.
No, I mean,
We used to have discussions in my store about the different flavors of the paint. By the way, do not lick your brush for sure after you've used Milne oil. It is not good taste.
Oh, I bet.
Milne oil is not good. There used to be a chestnut wash from GW. I don't know what they used. I know it was brown and it smelt really bad. Do not lick that one either.
Is it this one?
Is it the old? No. Older than that.
Oh,
In the top with the red caps.
Oh my God, that is
wow.
If it sat for a few weeks, you definitely did not want to be in a closed room with it.
nice.
It was pretty bad.
Just want to say thank you to everybody watching right now. We appreciate you being here. Say something in the chat. Say hi. Let us know if you currently play Song of Ice and Fire. Let us know what faction you play. And like I said at the beginning of the episode, if you have any hints or tactics or sneak attacks for the free folk that I should definitely take into account for my tactics, which we're in the last 24 to 48 hours, I think, of the Song of Ice and Fire Tactics Kickstarter, which has done very well for CMON. But if you haven't yet and are interested, go check that out on Kickstarter.
Miniatures are amazing.
Oh, yeah.
So tempting. It's so tempting. The miniatures are so nice.
The dragon piece is huge.
That's crazy.
73 centimeters in height.
Yeah.
But what's also kind of cool is all the miniatures that come in that game are compatible to this game as well, and some of them are just alts, right? So I'm really excited for that as well. I love me some alts.
Skirmish games are a really nice like stepping stone to get you to the big war games too. That's how I ended up playing war games in the first place.
Well, you've only been playing war games for a couple of years now, right?
Yeah, I've been painting for a long time, but I ended up actually playing games with Kill Team, and it was so challenging to find anybody who actually played it. So my first like real games were at a tournament in Detroit. I found a place I was doing a tournament. I'm like, okay, I can at least play. I'll probably get my butt kicked, but I'll at least play.
Right.
And like the hooks were in then. I thought it would be competitive and it was, but it was also friendly. And then in between rounds, we just Bob Rossed out for like 40 minutes until the next round. Everybody was just talking technique. I'm like, oh my gosh, these are my people. Where have I been? What have I been doing?
Yes. Very cool.
Yeah, we used to have grand tournament in Baltimore when GW had their headquarters there. And boy, that was the most fun I think I had in a weekend was going for that.
At the Armory?
No, it was at the convention center there in Baltimore, but it was we'd get 15 people from my store. One year we did the Mortifactors chapter. So each of us picked a different company. So I unfortunately picked Scouts because I thought it'd be fun.
Okay.
The problem is there was only metal Scouts. And if you have to make an entire 2,000 point army of metal Scouts, I got pretty creative. I actually would buy metal Scouts, cut the arms and legs off and the heads, and then buy catechins and use them to kind of make poses. So, but
just to make them lighter.
Yeah, it was fun because there was I think it was 7 of us, so we had 7 different chapters of the Mortifactors.
Nice.
In the tournament. So people are like, I'm playing Mortar Factors again. But yeah, that was fun. We used to have a really good time. That weekend was just great. Like we barely ever got dinner though because service was so bad in Baltimore. But we had a great time every time.
Well, I mean, if you're down at the waterfront where
Yeah.
the convention center is, yeah, it's not great.
Trying to get your meal, you had 45 minutes for a meal, and trying to get your meal in less than 45 minutes
Yeah.
was impossible. We usually eat at the table.
Yeah.
But yeah, I miss those days. They
Nice.
were a lot of fun.
Well, one of the things I find is interesting is, again, when you think about the history of gaming, the Armory in Chessex
Mm-hmm.
was right there in Baltimore for a long time.
Right.
And
Well, Chessex was in Phoenixville actually, PA.
oh,
Yeah, but the Armory was there. Yeah,
and the
they had
Armory
their own store.
then was bought by Alliance
Mhm.
and was the Alliance East shipping
Yep.
hub for a while, well, a good while. And then it was funny is when I'd go down to the Alliance offices there and walk around, there was still old signage from when the Armory was there. It was like, what? This is
Some of
crazy.
the first primers available, spray can primers, were the Armory. They were like a staple in the game store. It was one of the only reliable primers you could get that you could sell to your customers. Otherwise, people would have to go buy Krylon.
Oh,
So,
Jesus.
but Armory came out with gray and white and black back, and that was our like staple primer until GW actually started doing their own.
That was what, like 96, 97?
Yeah, 96, 97, yeah.
Those were the old white cans, weren't they?
Yeah, well, there was a white. Yeah, it was a white can and it had a different lid. Was how you told what color it was.
Yeah, yeah.
And they
I
were
always thought they
super
were.
flat and dry.
I thought they were Games Workshop affiliated because they were always like on the bottom of that shelf.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, because GW can never keep theirs in stock, so you want to have your primer, so you just put Armory in there because you want to have some primer for somebody. By the way, one of my rules of painting: always prime your miniatures. I know many
Always.
people, if they're new players, a lot of times I used to have that in my store. They'd come in, they'd paint the miniatures, not prime them, and then 2 weeks later they'd have no paint on their stuff.
Yeah, it all rubs off.
Yep. The new plastics, it's not too bad as it was back in the day with metal.
Well, there's still some companies out there that say that you don't have to prime your miniature that from their miniature line.
Yeah.
And what they say is if you don't prime it, you have to seal it though.
Right.
Right. And I'm still like, can we do both?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the answer is yes.
yeah. You want to paint the land and then you want it to stay there.
Right.
Yeah. That's why I'm glad plastic is now the dominant, because metal miniatures. Oh, metal miniatures. I know some people love them, but
Yeah, the pinning involved with like little arms and stuff like that. That was
Oh,
Tragic.
pin vice.
Yeah.
that's when I started as a retailer. People always complain, about the price of Games Workshop, but I was like, yeah, you don't understand. A Space Marine Tactical Squad was like $60 back in 1996, and it consisted of 6 blisters that you'd have to buy,
Right.
unless you wanted to have all the weapon options,
Mhm.
and then it'd be 10 blisters.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up? Oh, is that Stronghold?
Stronghold D&D. How's it going?
Oh, no. How's it going? Oh, show. Again, for those of you watching, we are painting Song of Ice and Fire War Mammoths. Here's mine coming along. I've got it's crazy because there's a lot of basing still kind of going on, and then the fine details are going to come along. I've got to do the neck and a couple things here, and the arrows or the spears here, and then do some touch-ups on the tusks, and then go around and do some dry brushing. And I'm going to finish with the eyes, I think, but I don't think we'll get it done today. But we will get there. And our guest Rich Gain from Dara Studios is with us, and we're talking about just our experiences and mainly his experiences over the last 30 years ish that he's worked in the industry as both retailer and operations and I don't think there's any touch point within the industry you haven't had some sort of
I've worked in with a warehouse moving stuff. I pretty much I think there's very few jobs I haven't done.
And I think it's about that time where we give a little shout out to our sponsors. So big shout out to CMON Games for the opportunity to paint the miniatures. But the War Mammoths, here's the box. If you're interested in checking it out, the box kind of looks like this. It's pretty cool, and comes with 2 War Mammoths in it, and this is part of their skirmish game. It's super fun. Our whole theme this season on Path of the Brush is painting to play it. So these, we'll see a game table, we'll take pictures and put them up. If you haven't already, check out our Discord. It's not Path of the Brush, it's from my store. We're painting here live at Hoplite Games in Lansing, Michigan. And Hoplite Games has a Discord, and if you follow us on Facebook, you'll find that the Discord link is the top pinned comment on our Facebook page. You can come over and join us. We like to talk about miniatures and miniature painting in the Discord as well. Everybody shows off their works in progresses and their completed models. Another shout out to Game Envy, who is the maker of the Phalanx brushes that we're using, and also the collapsible paint cup for rinsing your brushes. And they also make a cool wet palette and this interesting dry brush board.
Texture.
Yeah, texture board here. It's pretty cool. I feel like they took a lot of my imagery to make some of these faces. This guy, the wizard, pretty much anybody with a beard and mustache. I think they were looking at some of my portraits and such to make those. But they're mainly known as the Hobby Handle Maker, which is I don't have one sitting here right now, but it's for smaller miniatures. Obviously, we're not going to use it because we're painting a much larger miniature than a character miniature, but it's good for painting and holding on to character miniatures from medium to small. So it's a pretty cool product. And who else? Hoplite Games, Thunderforge Studios, Gen Con TV, and everybody over at Gen Con who allows us to come on every week and talk about all the insanity and craziness we talk about. One of those being, did you hear that, or do you remember in 1994 when a runaway planet from outer space collided between the Earth and the Moon and unleashed cosmic destruction?
Yeah.
You don't remember that?
No.
And with that, mankind's civilization was destroyed 2,000 years later, which is, in news time is like a couple weeks.
Right.
The Earth was reborn, a strange new world.
I didn't hear this.
No. Yeah, apparently there's this really cool guy who breaks his bonds to fight for justice with his companions who flew the Bach in Princess Ariel.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I remember that.
So
I remember when that happened.
Yeah, with his strength
Things
and
got
courage,
better though.
things did get better.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
They did.
and because of him and his sacrifices, we have the world we have today. So we just like to give a big
Didn't
shout
him
out.
and Space Ghost work together too?
I feel like they did.
Yeah.
But we'd like to give a big shout out to our savior, for the world would not be the way it is today if it wasn't for Thundar the Barbarian. So we just give a big shout out to Thundar every week. Thank you, Thundar, for all the things you do.
It is Thundar o'clock.
I love it.
So you mentioned that you watch a show that puts you to sleep.
Mhm. Yeah.
Are you a big watcher of things on like Netflix?
I do watch a lot of Netflix.
All
Yeah.
right. So what's a show you've watched recently that you would be like, you should check this out?
Well, I watched it on Netflix, but I watched originally on Max. But it's Warrior. Have you guys seen it?
Is that
If you're talking about good fight
is it
scenes,
Thailand?
so it's actually written by Bruce Lee.
Oh yes.
And the guy they got to make him does a great job because he's like, you can see it's Bruce Lee, but he doesn't mimic Bruce Lee.
Right.
And it's like 19th century San Francisco, post Civil War. So you have Civil War veterans who are upset. You have a lot of people upset because there's no jobs. And then, of course, the trains just got finished. So a lot of the Chinese are there because they don't have any jobs now, and so there's a competition between the Irish, the Chinese, and
Yeah.
it's really good, and the fight sequences are just phenomenal. So if you want good fight sequences, that is definitely
I always want
per episode. There's probably more great kung fu action than many other shows.
Okay.
So that's what I would. It just hit Netflix. It was originally a Max series,
Okay.
but
And it's called
yeah,
Warrior.
Warrior. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you want an oldie but a goodie, but is Kingdom. Have you watched Kingdom from Korea?
Nope.
It's medieval Korea with zombies.
Oh,
So
no, I have.
so good, so good. And the real bad guys end up being the Japanese, not the zombies. So
You don't get much more Korean than that.
Koreans do, yeah, as Koreans do, the samurai come in and they're the ones that everybody is actually, really terrified of.
Okay.
But a really good one. So they're my two. I would say my two recommendations if it had to be Netflix.
Well, this makes for a good segue to a topic that Will brought up that we could talk about in today's episode. Is when you're playing war games and all this stuff, you have these combat scenarios, right? You have the skirmishes, you have the different like flanking techniques and everything, and a lot of people might think of those as in a cinematic matter, but you don't really get to see real good fight scenes, right? So what's one of your favorite fight scenes, Rich, from any movie where you're just like, yeah, that was it?
Wow, that's a hard one because there's a lot. That's
There
the
are.
hard part. Let me see. I would say the one that gets me fired up if I want to watch is probably like the end sequence of Conan. Not to go back to Conan, but
You should always go back to
the
Conan.
battle amongst the ruins
Oh yeah,
is
Oh,
just
yeah.
whew, man, that scene, that one there is the one that I always, whenever I played a miniatures game, Warcry being the reason I play Warcry,
Mm-hmm.
is because of the Conan-esque elements of it, and I just want to create a terrain features and to make that scene,
Okay.
because it's just that's one of my all-time favorite fight scenes, and the
The
way the
prayer
terrain's
sequence
used,
in the beginning where he's
of
like,
course, yeah,
I never ask you for anything, but if you can't help me this time, F off.
yeah, yeah.
No tongue. I can't pray to you. I have no tongue for it. Yeah.
Right. So
What a
good.
scene.
Yeah, that's probably one of the best fight scenes that I like.
Okay. How about you, Will?
The fight scene that I saw that kicked off the question for me was the moment that Gypsy Danger gets lowered in the floodlights to fight those two kaiju in Pacific Rim.
Oh, yes. That's a great fight scene.
Yeah. The music kicks in and just like, oh, let's go. That's just good.
Nice. That's a great one. How about you, Mark?
I was going old school. We kind of talked about this. The Bruce Lee really got me into the whole fight scene, and now Will's opening up kaiju and all sorts of stuff. That's opening up some other doors. But the whole like Return of the Dragon with Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee at the Coliseum. When they were fighting, and Bruce Lee rips his like chest hair off or whatever, blows it in his face. Like,
Yeah, that was great.
epic as it,
That fight scene was pivotal because it that was in the days where the moves didn't necessarily tell the story, but that one did, and that was like a real evolution of the fight scenes in cinema for me, at least.
Agreed. I think well, for everybody watching, if you have a favorite fight scene from any movie or show, tell us in the comments. We'd love to hear where you draw inspiration, or what like was a fight scene that just like wowed you. Let us know in the comments. One of mine is the fight scene from Ip Man, the first one, which is the story of Bruce Lee's teacher, right? And where he's fighting like 12 guys at once in this, and they're all Japanese guys, and he just goes to work, and you're just like, that's a broken shoulder, that's a broken leg, that's a broken ankle, that's a broken forehead. And then and he does that rapid punch and just kind of like knocks that guy to the ground. It's like, yep, that is absolutely one of the greatest fight scenes ever. But I think a lot of modern fight scenes are really brought together by the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I think changed a lot
yeah.
of what the modern fight scenes are, and you can see that also in the show Into the Badlands.
Oh god, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, great show. Yeah.
When what is his name? Was his name Danny? Main character. We had all the markings because he was a reaper or whatever he was. A lot of his fight scenes were just phenomenal. So that whole wire work, right? Did you watch a lot of Kung Fu theater growing up?
Of course. Yeah.
Right. I
Every
kinda
Saturday
figured.
afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was for us. It was
The
Sundays.
Flying Guillotines. That was a great one.
Ooh,
Uh,
classic.
the was it the seven? You had the 7 venoms or the 5 deadly venoms,
Yep.
and the 7 or 9 weapons of Kung Fu
Yeah.
was another one.
So one of my favorite role-playing games is, if anybody's never seen it, is Feng Shui.
Feng Shui.
Yes.
Adult games, and that is, gosh, one of my favorites to run. I actually enjoy running it with new RPGers,
Mhm.
so people who've only played D&D, because the idea that a fight can actually be role-playing
Yeah.
is so foreign to that kind of, like to that, they don't really develop that as well.
Right.
Whereas Feng Shui, I kind of put it like it's like a porn movie. Is most of the story is to get you to the next fight scene.
Right.
But in Feng Shui, you're actually role playing through the fight scene.
Yeah.
They do a great job of really setting the sets
Mhm.
so that when you're fighting in a restaurant, they give you a list of like, here's the things that can happen, and of course there's always the fish tank full of poisonous fish that you break, or there's the gong in the temple that you can use, and so Kung Fu theater, and that's what it is. Is Robin Laws, who wrote that, just was big Hong Kong cinema fan, and created a game that goes well beyond the Hong Kong cinema, because it goes into the geomancy and all these other things. That's where the Feng Shui comes in. But boy, what a fun game to run, and what a really good way to teach people to role play.
Agreed.
Is what I found, because people don't understand, well, I roll my D20 and I hit a character. That's what they're used to. And in that game, if you do that, you're going to actually, it's harder every time you do it. The same thing. But if you we had a fight in a video store back when video stores were a thing. And, riding the cart down the middle of the video store, throwing videotapes at people was much easier than if they just shot their gun.
Right.
And the game encourages you to do that. So that's what I always like that as a good way to teach people how to role play without, even when they're actually in a fight.
Yeah. That I played the character that is basically from Big Trouble in Little China, right? Where he's like
everyman hero,
right?
Yeah.
You have no intentions of being the star of the movie, because so Feng Shui is, you're literally in a cinematic event, right? You're supposed to be in some sort of like Big Trouble in Little China like movie or whatever. But my character owned a cafe. Well, and as I was leaving and turned the corner, and I walked right into a gang fight, and I ended up being sucked into the cinematic drama of that particular one-shot event. And it's like, but what was interesting is, I think anything they pick up is like an improvised weapon.
Yeah. But there's no penalty. Like a lot of games will penalize you for that.
Right.
In that game, it encourages you. If I walk up and I shoot somebody, that's a certain level of like difficulty.
Right.
If I walk up, flip over a counter, and then shoot the candelabra to drop on them,
right,
that's the same difficulty.
Right.
So why not do that?
Why not do that?
Yeah.
It encourages you to do that.
Whereas in many games, it's like, well, it's a +2 to this, +3 to that. Okay, you need a 15, or whatever.
Right.
Whereas players are like, oh, I'll just shoot them.
Right.
Whereas that game actually doesn't penalize you for doing the crazy stuff.
It's literally like you got it. Everything that Jackie Chan does in any of his movies, where he's jumping through grocery carts and all, launching himself off. The
more creative you are, the game rewards you.
Yeah.
And that's what I love. That's why I love teaching people how to role play with it, because role playing during fighting is always one of the things I think many role playing games miss.
Yes.
Because they don't.
Absolutely.
There's no reward. That's the thing.
Right.
You have to reward players, like incentives.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever listen to Freakonomics, incentives drive players, and if you don't reward them for it, they're not going to do it. They're just going to roll their d20 and say, I hit them. But that game is really good for that.
Nice.
My
Yeah,
good
so-
friend had a character based off of El Mariachi, and he
Oh,
convinced
okay.
he convinced the GM that if he was able to kiss a random woman at the location for luck, he got a bonus to his next roll. So he had to role play how he could convince the woman, like, "Hey, hello, darling, how are you?"
Great. Yeah, that's
right
great.
before he had to like fire his gun or hit somebody with a
Maybe the
guitar.
last opportunity I have to kiss a woman. And he's back in the battle.
Yeah, that's great stuff. I had one guy played a cab driver from New York in Hong Kong,
Oh my god.
and it was the character, it was one of the characters in the Golden Comeback, which was the expansion. That was his car was his undamageable object. So if you have the gun guy, you can have a gun that's undamageable. Well, his cab was, so he had a yellow New York cab from the 1970s. And at one point, he's rolling down Kowloon Hill, like for like, and it's that scene from a movie where it just keeps going and going, and then he lands on all fours and drives off because his car couldn't be damaged. There was no way, like it could be blown up, but because of the rules of the game, you could not actually damage his car because that was his shtick. So it was he bought that car into malls. He bought that car into houses. I mean, it was that car. He drove that car everywhere, and of course kept the meter running.
Of course.
So
was at the end of the episode.
right.
They're like, that'll be $218, please. Thank you.
So
good.
I had another guy was playing a Viking barbarian, and he came through a time portal, and so he's actually and his job that he got when he got to Hong Kong was working for Capital One, because if you remember the Capital One commercials.
Yes, with all the Vikings. Yeah.
So he could just go about doing what he normally would do.
That's hilarious.
But worked for Capital One. So
perfect.
Yeah.
That is so
Capital
good.
One, if you want to sponsor this broadcast, please, let us know.
Right. Because what's in your wallet?
Yeah.
When you go to your friendly local game store, what's in your wallet?
That's right.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, that's funny. So there's so many good fight scenes out there, cinematically, that is easily translatable to any role-playing game. The miniature games, I find it's a little bit more difficult. But what I'm also learning is, like when we were painting in the first couple episodes of the season, we were painting the Conquest Tantor, and they were working on their Conquest miniatures. Is that the Wadroon, which are the orcs, communicate or are very in tune to like music, right? And so I'm working on some like lyrics for when we go into battle.
Okay.
So
that's cool.
Yeah, and I'll be like, yeah, I'm going to move my Thunder Riders in, and as they are charging into engage with you, you hear this dun 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 dun, and they're like, you want some fun little lyrics.
Where there's a whip, there's a way.
Yeah. Where there's a whoop, there's a way. Yeah. Hit him with that kind of stuff.
Anybody in the stream know where that's from?
They should be. We got.
That's one of the ones that's hard to find. I don't think it streams anywhere even.
Yeah, I don't think it is streaming anywhere right now.
You can find the other Rankin and Bass stuff, but you can't find that one.
Wow, you just gave me a huge hint.
I know, but they still don't know yet.
Well, sometimes I feel like everybody watching us is watching us like on their TV or something, because they're not right. Yeah,
the medium is not dead.
Right. Well, I think it's actually something that they're trying to encourage is people watching Twitch on their actual televisions.
I just got this new Samsung TV that pretty much you can do anything.
Really?
It's crazy. Yeah, you can actually run Xbox through it. You don't need an Xbox.
It's just on it.
It's just on it. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I just bought it. It was on sale for President's Weekend. I was like, wow, this is.
Can you order your Uber Eats on it too?
Sure you can.
Probably. So.
I mean, it works like a Samsung phone is basically what it works.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Again, inappropriate. So one of the things that's coming up for both Rich and I is the Gamma Expo, which is a trade show for the tabletop industry. Gamma meaning the Game and Manufacturing Association, and the trade show is in Louisville, Kentucky, for the first time.
It's where all us game industry people plot to figure out how we're going to take over the world.
Yeah,
So we can't tell you too many secrets about it.
correct.
Yeah. Otherwise, we'd have to kill you.
I mean, I think that's a little too much information already. I guess.
I know.
Sorry, everybody. You're right.
Sorry. There might be a knock at your door shortly.
That's right. It will be the Pinkerton Agency.
Yeah, right. They're looking for their magic cards.
Right. So I'm going down as a media guest, and one of my business partners is going to be repping the store for us to go to all the different like lectures that you have to go to get the
Get your free box.
to get their box of stuff. Yeah. But I'm really looking forward to it because this is going to be, as far as like vendors go, one of the biggest ones in a while.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they used to be in Reno, used to be in Vegas, but this one, because it's located in the Midwest, means you're going to have a lot of people from the Midwest, which is where a concentration of game stores and hobbyists and companies even are. So
Right.
it's got the largest vendor room I think Gamma's ever had. So
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty intense and impressive, I feel. And one of the things that comes out of Gamma for a lot of publishers is first looks at new games that are going to be coming out later in the
Gen
year.
Con, yeah, pretty much our Gen Con releases. That's what we work on.
And as a media person, I enjoy having that access to come in and be like, "Ooh, that looks cool." Because now, as a store owner, I also get the vibe on like, "Ooh, what am I really gonna? What is my community gonna want to see?" Right. So a lot of the content I'll be creating this year will be for the store to gauge interest of my community, which is a whole new like look for me.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited for that.
I used to, as a retailer, I used to look forward to the Gamma Trade Show as a way to recharge my batteries because,
Okay.
You get through the Christmas season and then kind of things, at least in my store, I was in a shore resort, so we had nothing going on.
Okay.
And so your batteries would run down, and then Gamma would come around and then you get ready for summertime and when the kids are off school and talking to other retailers especially was the way to really get those new ideas into into my store and to my customers and letting them know, and then also getting ready to see what was coming out for the summer so I could plan my buying and everything. So it was a pretty important event for me as a retailer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super excited for it. And I've gone to 10 now, which isn't a lot because you got people like Will Niebling who started Gamma.
Yeah. We were just talking about the two worst Gammas, which of course is different than my perspective of Gammas, because when I was a retailer, the two best Gammas was Atlantic City, which was the second worst according to many people.
Okay.
But for me, it was great because I was opening my store, and then the next one after that was Miami, and retailers or as a retailer, Miami was great because there was one manufacturer per retailer at the show. So at night you were sitting there playing games with all the manufacturers, and Peter Atkinson was teaching Twitch at the time, which was one of his favorite games. But I got to meet all these people and spend hours with them, where normally at Gamma everybody goes off to the Four Winds, but because where they had it was very isolated, so everybody stayed at the hotel pretty much. And so as a retailer, it's one of my favorite Gammas. But if you ask any manufacturer, that was tough. That was the one that really broke the. That's when Gamma changed a lot and became permanently located, because it used to rotate. Around the country, along with Origins too.
I do remember that Origins was like a traveling show for a while.
Yeah. There was an Origins in Philly, New York, New Orleans, I think even. But Gamma's a great. If you're in the industry, it's really a good place to go to meet and see people and get caught up and recharge those batteries, because the batteries run down.
Yeah, they do.
And,
it re-sparks excitement for the things that we enjoy doing within our space.
Yep.
All right.
And the creativity of other retailers and what they're doing, just we couldn't possibly think of all the ideas, but if you get to talk to them and go to the seminars, you can really come up with like some really good stuff to refresh your store, to change things, to maybe do new events or different ways to do events.
Yeah. Well, one of the funniest ones that I've ever heard, was from a best practices lecture, like where it was more of a panel type event, and it had a bunch of like retailers that have big stores or like Millennium Games and Games and Stuff, and those guys. And one of the things that one of the stores did to bring in new customers was, okay, Rich knows this, and for all of you watching, this is a little bit of a back knowledge on some things. So when it comes to owning a game store, whenever you get your weeklies from your distributors and the different companies, you're going to accumulate a lot of cardboard. There are a lot of boxes, and they're really sturdy boxes. Oh, the Alliance boxes are pretty sturdy. Games Workshop, all the different companies that ship to you have these really sturdy boxes. So one store would save all of them, and every like other month they'd put an ad, because they were in a college town. They put an ad in saying free moving boxes. Just come pick them up, and they'd show a little picture, and they'd get tons of people coming into their store to get these free moving boxes because college kids want to cut. They don't want to be spending a lot of money on that kind of stuff, and they're always moving from either the dorms to an apartment to a bigger apartment to share with other friends, or they're graduating and going home. So there's always these kids that are looking for these boxes. And so they were getting all these new customers because these kids didn't know that they existed. I was like, that's really freaking brilliant. But in a month or 2 months, that's a lot of cardboard built up.
Yeah, I couldn't have done it. Yeah. We would have had to have another store to hold all the cardboard.
Right? It's ridiculous. But I thought it was an interesting way of drawing in new customers. I obviously, even though Michigan State University is literally a mile from here, right, one of the largest colleges in the United States, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a very interesting tactic to bring in new consumers.
Yeah, and that's the stuff that triggers the more something on your idea that might be more appropriate, but you just start thinking differently, and it's great, and that's what's really one of the best takeaways from GAMA. It's not the free stuff you get, it's not this or that, it's the interaction with other people and ideas that really makes that show worth it. And as a retailer, that was always worth it for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, since 1996, I don't think I've missed a GAMA since then. So,
dang.
Yeah.
96. So 100 years ago.
Yeah, 100.
You've been going to the GAMA trade
back when Thundar was trying to save the world.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. Because only 2 years afterwards.
Yeah.
But you've been going since the late 1900s.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I heard that's a term that people are using now. Yeah. Oh, you're from the late 1900s?
Oh my God. So you know dinosaurs.
Yeah. We rode them. There's even a museum with the saddles in it. I'm painting these mammoths from just from memory. I don't need to see the originals. I once rode these to school uphill both ways.
That's right. And they were barefoot.
Yep. I was barefoot too.
What?
I remember when mammoths went from stick to automatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Europe, they're still stick.
Are they really? Get with it, Europe.
Europeans love their stick.
And you got to write it on the right side instead of the left too.
So weird.
Only in England.
Oh, okay. All right.
And Japan and China.
Okay. Everywhere. So are there any like events that you still have on your bucket list?
Luca actually is one we were talking about today.
Yeah.
Luca, I might do it this year.
Okay.
Which is the big comic and game festival in Lucca, Italy.
Yeah.
It used to be very close to GAMA, and to Essenspiel, so I used to always want to do it then, but this year it's a month later, but I think this is the year we're going to do it. I think we're going to do it. I was just in Italy 2 weeks ago and really enjoyed it. So having it go there and then play games and stuff was really
So you're going, yeah, Italy, horrible.
yeah. No, I was doing the Nuremberg Toy Fair, which was a big event, and just grabbed the train down to Italy.
Nice.
To take it back a minute, I just put a yellow wash over this leather per your advice, and it's great. That's a huge difference.
Yeah, yellow. I would never have connected the two. I was always trying to go fleshy, and I watched a bunch of videos and saw pretty much yellow, and I was like, oh crap, yeah. So I don't know if you want to.
Yeah,
I'm doing the leather here.
Let's take a look. See. Okay, so if you look down here on the leather strappings and the side pouch here, look at that. That looks amazing. Heck yeah. And on the other side, the straps and the up here.
Oh, are you hitting that? You were edge highlighting with yellow.
Yeah. I'm doing the scratches and stuff on the edge.
It looks so good.
Man.
Yes, so good.
Nice.
Beauteous.
You figure these guys can't replace their leather very often, so these are probably leather straps that have been on this mammoth, and its kids or its parents and the parents before that. So,
yes.
Are you going with yellow or like a bone-ish kind of ivory?
So I transitioned from a brown to this basilisk brown, which is bubonic brown is probably the closest. I don't know if you can see here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
there we go, right there. And then slowly added in this moon dusk, which is there we go. Moon dusk, which is a kind of a light yellow. I think I'm going to stop there. I don't think I want to go any further on it. And then what I'm going to do is make a glaze out of this hardened leather, which is somewhere
right here,
right there, to then kind of ease everything back together again. So it'll take away the real yellow, but it'll still leave enough of it to kind of give it a nice, and then it'll also get my cracks and crevices a lot deeper. So you'll see them a lot better. So I'm a big fan of glazes. Glazes are, I think, an old school technique that if you watch a lot of new painters, they're using almost exclusively to kind of tidy up everything at the end. So
yeah, they are kind of moving into that again. Like,
yeah,
giving it a resurgence.
I remember when Games Workshop first produced glazes, they never produced a video. Of course, there was no YouTube, and nobody knew how to use them, so they never sold. And they just continued them because they never sold.
Because they never sold.
Now, if they came out with them again, I bet you they'd sell a bunch of them.
Yeah, for sure.
The contrast paints are pretty close.
Yeah, no, and that's what, if you watch a lot of, like, especially the Games Workshop painters, they're using their contrast paints as the basis for them, and then just thin them a little bit more, and you're pretty good at creating those glazes. The key with glazes, I think, is that don't try to change too much too quickly.
Yes.
Because you don't know what they're really going to look like until they dry. And I think that's the mistake that you can make with them, is that you think, oh, I didn't put enough, and then you put another layer on before they dry. But a little bit goes a long way with them.
I did not have the patience for it when I was younger, and it taught me the value of patience when I actually tried it out.
Yeah. Or get a hairdryer nearby.
Right.
That's that if you don't have patience, then a hairdryer works too.
See, this is why you listen to your grognards, kids.
Wait a minute. What? Are we grognards now? Are we the grogs? Oh my God.
These youngins, they don't know.
So I was gonna do a TikTok video, and I probably still will, or it's like, "Hi, I'm a grognard. You might recognize me from my beard," and then have someone else do it. Like, "That's right, I'm a grognard. You might recognize me from my backpack." Then I come back and be like, "Yep, as a grognard, you might recognize me because of my belly." And then a bunch of us lined up together and go, "And as a grognard, you might recognize us because we're bald." Bald, bearded, bellied backpack grognards.
It's alliterative.
Right?
Nice.
I do like it. I'm pretty excited with the league being able to table these as they are getting painted. The war mammoths are such an interesting beast in that they, when they die, they fall on an opposing unit and do damage.
It's the old giant rule in
Yeah.
Warhammer Fantasy. You used to have the dead giant template. Do you
Mhm.
remember that?
I do not.
So-
So I've never played Warhammer.
Oh, okay. In the old Warhammer, you actually had a dead giant template, and you'd have to roll the scatter dice to see where the dead giant template was placed, and then any units underneath of it would take hits.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a cool little cardboard template that came with the game.
All right. Well, we're getting close to the end of our episode here, and we just want to
We
give
didn't
another.
run out of stuff to talk about.
We didn't. There never is. I feel like there's always something more we can always talk about, especially when we get someone like you who's been in the industry and seen everything. I think you know everybody, and if you don't know them, I know them. So between the two of us, there's nobody in the industry we don't know.
Yeah.
But it's, and plus it's fun just catching up. Right?
Yeah. And because we always are passing each other by in the night at the shows, so
Right.
we never get this kind of time to talk and
Right.
stuff. So it's great.
And I learned a lot about you today that I didn't know before.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely did. I mean, there was stuff that I knew, but not to the detail that we were able to dive into today.
That were Conan Bros.
Right? Conan Bros. All right, everybody. Big shout out again to the Army Painter, Game Envy, the makers of the Hobby Handle, Tabletop Gurus, Hoplite Games, Dara Studios, and Rich here today, and all of you that watch us and join us every week, and the ones that comment and talk to us in the chat. Sweet. Those of you that don't, we still appreciate you, and we're glad that you're here. Next week we'll come back and we'll finish up the War Mammoths, and hopefully they'll all look amazing, and they'll look great on the board. Until next time, I'm Rick. This is Path of the Brush, and we'll see you at your friendly local game store.